friends, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I want to talk about all the books that y'all lied to me about. So these are some of the hyped books that I read and didn't really enjoy. I think it's important to note that in regards to hype, obviously if you'd read a book that you've seen around and you don't enjoy it, then obviously you're going to think overhyped. But for some people, the hype is warranted because they enjoy it. So these are books that I have seen around that are popular that I just personally didn't enjoy. So first up is Hunting Adeline. So to begin, this is a 600-page book. It doesn't need to be that long. I don't really think any non-fantasy romance story needs to be this long, but that's kind of stereotypical for KU romances I'm finding. That's a conversation for another day. But Hunting Adeline in particular is about a woman who moves into her grandmother's house and starts discovering secrets relating to her grandmother at the same time she's being stalked. And it is her relationship with her stalker, and he also has his own point of view, and he's catching bad guys, basically. This is just weird, and when I originally read it, I gave it 3 stars, but we had a live show for it, and I've since thought about it. I've listened to other people talk about it, and the storylines for this are just odd. The decisions that the author made are just odd. Desire to redeem the hero by making him catch bad guys while also committing non-con and stalking is just an odd choice. Like, he can just be a stalker. Like, it can just be what it is. But the choices to dive into these weird, like, conspiracies are just... It's an odd choice. I didn't enjoy it. It didn't need to be as long as it was. So next up is Hooked. And I'm actually going to talk about my next 2 in tandem with each other because they're pretty popular. They're talked about together and I have the same feelings for both of them. So that's Hooked and Promises and Pomegranates. Now Hooked is a Peter Pan retelling. Promises and Pomegranates is obviously Hades and Persephone. And again, I don't really remember anything about either of these. And they both attempt to have this like stern daddy approach with the heroes where they're just kind of broody, and I don't remember either of them. They're not big and bad enough for me to remember them. They're not alpha enough for me to remember them, I guess. And the plots of these stories are incoherent enough or just messy enough that I don't necessarily remember them. So they're very hyped and I don't quite get it because they're both very mediocre and not memorable to me. We then have Brittle Prince. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the Brittle Birthright series, I love the Kingmaker series, and I love the Saints and Sinners duology. I like Sophie Lark. I think she's a good author. But this one is very mediocre, and it's crazy to me that Ada and Kellum are like the couple that everybody talks about with Sophie Lark, because she has so many better ones. This is touted as like a true enemies to lovers, and I just didn't really find their enemies portion to be that believable. I think they were just from rival families and they had an encounter that like pissed each other off and they didn't really get along. It's a marriage of convenience, which in a contemporary setting, and especially in a mafia setting, I don't always believe in. I did enjoy that Ada is just as strong and badass as Kellum, because I personally don't like reading mafia romances where one of them is very meek and the other one is just, you know, a big bad. So I enjoyed that they were on equal footing, but altogether this was just a very standard mafia romance for me, and it just missed the mark. So next up is something that I actually thoroughly enjoyed, and I feel like that is an unpopular opinion in the community, and I went into this book with low expectations because of the community, and I was very wrong. I was pleasantly surprised that I was wrong, and that is Hookline and Sinker. This is the second book in the Ballinger Sisters series, and this is about Hannah, who in the first one comes to this small town, this fisherman's town with her sister, and she meets Fox, who is the resident playboy. They spark up this friendship where they communicate over text message for like 6 or 7 months, and then she convinces the director of the studio that she works for that the best place to film his short film is in this town, this small fisherman's town. And she has a crush on this director, and so her relationship with Fox is kind of messy, I guess. So both of them are attracted to each other, but Hannah definitely feels like her attraction to the director like trumps all, and she doesn't want to ruin the friendship with Fox, and Fox very much doesn't want to ruin the friendship with Hannah because he is known as the playboy and he really likes Hannah, and he doesn't want to ruin her reputation or ruin their friendship because of who he is. And the dynamic between them is just fantastic. The conversations around the playboy persona and what that does to you mentally and how it makes you feel about yourself and your self-worth is fantastic, in a conversation that I don't think we have often enough, or that I've personally read. I found Fox's character to be so endearing, and the little things that he did for Hannah and the way that Hannah and Fox understood each other and like understood each other's emotions and could read each other and understood what each other needed was like fantastic. I think it was way better than It Happened One Summer. I think their relationship is rooted in deeper stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love Brendan and Piper's relationship. I think that they are fantastic together. I think the way that Brendan loves Piper exactly how she is fantastic. But Fox and Hannah are on a whole other level, and I love them. I love them a whole lot. So next up is Unhinged. This is an psychopath romance. In the beginning of the book, one of the heroes hunts down the other hero who is responsible for murdering his father. And they end up in a romantic relationship that leads to them hunting down the people that have wronged the other hero, the non-psychopath hero. The psychopath hero comes from a line of men who were raised by this man who was teaching them to essentially be vigilantes. And I am disappointed in this solely because there is an early hookup and all of the angst in the relationship is just not there. And that's not why I read romance. Like, I enjoyed the plot lines of them hunting people down and torturing people and all that. That's fine. But the angst in the relationship is why I read romance, and I just didn't find it to be there. Their relationship was too soft and sweet for me, and it just was ultimately a letdown. So next up is the one that y'all are really wrong for. Like, I'm pissed about this one, and really both books in the series that I've read, and that is The Viscount Who Loved Me and The Duke and I. So the two books that I have read in the Bridgerton series. Listen, the show, top tier, perfection. I rewatch it all the time. The angst is unreal. I love it so much. The books, I don't know who enjoys this. I'm sorry, I don't get it. There is nothing there. There is nothing substantial. The romances feel so hollow. I enjoy the like Bridgerton family and the close family dynamics, but most of the family relationships piss me off because there's no consistency to them. I don't know who enjoys the series. I do know who enjoys the series. That's like everybody, but I don't know why. I'm missing something. Maybe I read the wrong book. I don't know. Maybe I read a different book than everybody else read, but I'm very disappointed in the Bridgerton series. No plans to continue. I thought I was going to at one point, but honestly, it just isn't giving me what I want it to. Alright, so next up is not necessarily one that is overhyped or talked about a whole bunch, but it is one that would be right up my alley and plenty of people have talked about, and that is Stay With Me. I don't want to go too in depth with the issues that I have with this book because I don't want anybody who has read this book and enjoyed it to feel bad or feel like I am demeaning them or saying that they are bad people for enjoying this. But I will say that I have a lot of issues with the representation of mental health, discussions around sexual assault, abuse, and the terms thrown around. This is a group of bad people, selfish people who are touted as being mentally ill. They're in a mental health facility, or I guess like a group, a home for bad kids. It's like connected to a mental health facility. So the impression that it gives is that it is full of mentally ill people. And the heroine's trauma, the hero's trauma, I didn't enjoy the way that it was handled, and I'm very disappointed that this is popular. We then have the Zodiac Academy, and I only read 50% of the first book, and listen, I don't need you to tell me that it gets better. I know, it seems like people that can get through the first book love the series from then on, but I'm just not that person. The writing is just not it. It's not the type of self-indulgent, fun, messy that I enjoy. It's just bad. It just doesn't make sense, and I'm not interested in reading multiple books to get to a point where I enjoy the series. I understand the emotional damage and all of that comes with the later series, and it's good. I just can't do it. It's just not for me. It's just not good enough for me. The only thing that an indie romance has to do as far as prose is be there. Like, be something that doesn't take me out of the story, and the prose here were so bad that I just couldn't get through it. So, okay, the next two are going to be controversial, I guess. So the first one is It Ain't Me, Babe. No. I detested the writing in this. One of the reasons that I don't pick up motorcycle romances is the constant use of the word bitch and the way that they degrade women. I have read some dark shit. I get it. Like, the way that they talk to men, to women. I read mafia romances. I get the culture, but I cannot with this. I cannot repeatedly listen to the word bitch. I cannot listen to this talk. I think this writing is just not good, and I just couldn't get through it. I got through maybe 20 pages and I couldn't do it anymore. And for the same reason, I couldn't get through Lessons in Corruption. The writing is too bad for me. The dialogue is cringy, the writing is bad, and I've read the second one, then I tried to go back and read the first one, Lessons in Corruption, and I didn't like either of them. They weren't comprehensible, they didn't make sense, the dirty talk was awful, I hated it, and no, like, I just don't think this author is for me. I wish that she was, because people love this series when they love the series, but it just is not one that I think I can enjoy. And then the last one that I have, again, is very much like Stay With Me, where it's not the most overhyped, or not the most hyped, rather, but it's one that I have heard, again, that I would enjoy because of the angstiness, and this is No Tomorrow. First off, this book is like 600 pages, and again, I don't think a romance that's not fantasy needs to be this long. And for two, the first time they have a sexual scene, the heroine literally vomits. And then the last one is just collectively all of L.J. Shin's books. Don't like her as an author, don't like her as a person. Her books are literally carbon copies of the one successful book that she had, that she just repeated all the same shit. She cannot write teenagers well at all. No. So those are all of the books that I wanted to rant about in this video. Let me know down below some of the hyped books that you think are overhyped. And if you don't have anything to say, leave some sort of fruit emoji down in the comments. I will catch you guys in my next one, and thanks so much for watching.